It's a beautiful day outside. Welcome and good morning to News in Motion. Today is Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. It is such a beautiful day here in Columbus, Ohio. The birds are out chirping, the sun is shining, and after the show, I'm going to go outside and sip my coffee. That is a lie. I do not actually drink coffee. But for those of you who do, make sure that you take in the sunshine today. As you're coming into the room, whether you're coming in through YouTube or on Facebook, or if you're tuning in through audio and podcast, thank you for turning those dials to Hot 97 News in Motion. Today on Wednesday's workshop, we have a special guest for him. Y'all know him, y'all love him. We have Mr. Derek Holmes with us today as he's going to talk about mental health alongside with Miss Gail Dudley. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. Be sure to invite a couple of friends. And y'all know what we do here. Let's go get some news in motion.
What's up, everyone? Latrice Jones. I love it, girl. Latrice Jones says, number one, I'm first on Facebook. We see you, Latrice Jones. And you're not the only one. Shirley Nicholson is also on Facebook. Pastor Alex Williams is on Facebook. Cherie Brooks Wallace is on Facebook. My brother, Louis Furr III, is on Facebook. So you got some company over there. You did sign in first all the way around on every platform. Just let me say that. I see you, Marion Jackson, coming in on YouTube as well. So y'all get these hearts going, get the algorithm moving. I see you, Tracy Burrs. I see you coming in on Facebook as well. Deborah Johnson is also coming in on Facebook. So good morning to you. Y'all, let's get this algorithm moving. Let's go ahead and get these hearts, these likes, even on YouTube. Y'all hit that thumbs up on YouTube. Kim Edmondson, I see you coming in here. I see you, Adrienne. She says, good morning, YouTube gang. Y'all are on. We also have our podcast listeners as well. Fred Jones and come in on YouTube as well. Y'all hit that thumbs up on YouTube. Hit the like button here on Facebook. If you're on LinkedIn, you can also hit the heart or the thumbs up on LinkedIn as well. I see you, Shardinia, coming in here. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Y'all, today is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, May the 10th, 2023. I am your host, Gail Dudley. And as Isaiah said, it is time for some news in motion. I see you, Stephanie Burbridge Hall. Welcome, everyone who's tuning in live. If you happen to be checking out the replay, we want to say hello to you as well. As I always say, thank you for allowing me to spend a portion, just a small portion, about 35 minutes of your day with you. Y'all, listen, we got a lot to cover today. We have our Wednesday workshop, and I'm giving at least 20 minutes to the very own Derek Holmes, who's going to talk about mental health and our politics and how we protect our mental health with everything that's going on with with the political landscape. And it's a little crazy right now. It's a little crazy right now. Yeah, it's graduation season. It is graduation season. Get that out here real quick. If you have a graduate you would like to congratulate right here on News in Motion, please submit their name to us in their school or college, university, to us on our email, which is newsinmotionwithgail@gmail.com. Again, that's newsinmotionwithgail@gmail.com. Again, submit their name, their college, university, or their school, and we will make sure to shout them out. Now, y'all, you have to send it in so that we can do it. We just cannot pull it off of the chat. You have to send it in. I see you, Mike Nicholson, what's up to you? All right, y'all, we got to get in the news because Isaiah's holding my feet to the fire because we want to give all this time to Derek Holmes, which is extremely important. I see you, Deborah Sneed. Good morning to you. Y'all, do me a favor. Even on YouTube, you can share. So go ahead and share and say, hey, y'all, come on in here. We're talking about mental health and the political landscape. You want to check this out, y'all. There's a lot that's going on, and we have to protect, using the words of Simone Biles, we have to protect our mental. So, y'all, NPR is reporting the mammogram screening at 40 years old per new guideline. Breast cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death among women. About 42,000 women and 500 men die from the disease each year, according to the CDC. The American Cancer Society recommends now that women 40 to 44 who are at an average risk should have the options to start screening. But there's kind of like saying, we really want to wait till age 45, but there's some pushback where Dr. Mangani, Carol Mangani, says that there's evidence that has shifted in support of recommending mammograms for all women at 40. So she's an internal medicine specialist at UCLA who served as a previous chair of the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force and is co-author of these new recommendations. Now, y'all, they're saying if all women followed the new recommendations, we could reduce mortality from breast cancer in the U.S. by about 20%, saving about 8,000 lives a year. She goes on and says that's a big reduction in mortality from breast cancer, if I can get these words out. Now, y'all, I'm paying attention to this number. Black women are 40% more likely to die from breast cancer. So the new recommendation is incredibly important. This is from NPR to address this disparity. Starting at 40 actually creates the most benefit for Black women in our country. So let's pay attention to this. Let's make sure we follow it up. For those of you who are saying, I don't know if my health care is going to cover it, the Affordable Care Act requires most private health insurers to cover annual mammograms with no cost sharing, making them free to patients. Some of you have been waiting for this. Donald Trump is liable for sexual abuse to E. Jean Carroll case. The jury has found him liable for sexual abuse. A Vice columnist, E. Jean Carroll, in 1996, awarding her $5 million in that judgment. However, the jurors did reject her claim that she was raped. Senator Dianne Feinstein is returning to D.C. today. After being away during an extended illness since February, she has drawn criticism and even had some of her Democrat colleagues calling her to resign at the age of 89. The Senate Judiciary Committee delayed a number of President Biden's judicial nominations due to her prolonged absence. And I see y'all rolling up in here. Judy Neal, Yvonne Gardner, Regina Shorts, Lori Wallace. Again, y'all hit those like buttons, get the algorithm moving. Y'all, in Twitter news, I don't know why I'm sharing this, but I am. The Washington Post reports that Tucker Carlson, who was fired from Fox News last month, said in a video posted on yesterday afternoon on Twitter that he will be soon launching a new version of his television, should be a telephone, his television show on the social media platform. So he's taking his news show to Twitter now. Elon Musk tweeted late yesterday saying, well, there's no deal quite yet with Carlson. Yeah, sure, buddy. But he urged people from both sides of the political spectrum to join the site. Really? That's what you want us to believe? Okay. Y'all, New York Times is reporting George Santos, Devar, whatever his name is, who has many aliases, has been charged by the federal prosecutors in New York. Representative George Santos, the New York Republican who fell under numerous investigations over his personal and campaign finances after his biography was found to be a web of lies and exaggerations, has been now charged by the federal prosecutors in Brooklyn. Two people familiar with the investigation said. Now, CNN then reported that this comes months after the investigation, and that this includes evidence of financial misconduct, including an unregistered fund that donated a whole lot of money to his campaign and almost $400,000 in unexplained spending. Last month, as you may remember, I shared right here on News in Motion that he is running for re-election in his district in Long Island and parts of Queens. Now, CNN reported that Mr. Santos could appear as soon as today in federal court. Y'all, the news cycle was on and popping on yesterday. If y'all missed it, you missed it. Y'all, no deal. No deal. The U.S. continues to kind of like walk this fine line because June 1st is right around the corner. And don't forget, I explained to y'all what the X date was about. It could happen today. That they were like, no, we're not doing this. So you have a gridlock. You have the Republicans saying, nope, we're not going to do a deal without cuts. And the cuts are programs that really affect the viewers and listeners of News in Motion. So we got to be concerned about that. Then you have on the other side, no, no deal, because we're not going to let you cut anything. So they're at a gridlock. Debt is looming over us. The ceiling is falling, and we don't have any answers yet. So what's going to happen? I told y'all back in November during the 2022 election that it is gridlocked. There's no blue wave. There's no red wave. It is gridlocked. And we could be the ones bearing the brunt of all of this. All right, y'all. Tonight, I don't know how this is happening, why we've given them this kind of platform, but tonight on CNN, they will host a live town hall featuring a twice impeached, one-term former president who's just been found liable for sexual abuse and defamation in order to pay $5 million to E. Jean Carroll. This is the man who continues to deny the results of the 2020 election. He is currently under indictment for falsifying business records in New York and is facing criminal investigation for election interference for the potential violation of an Espionage Act. Woo, that's a whole lot for one person to carry, but it's real, y'all. This is not a movie. This is not false. This is true. But they're giving him a platform tonight to have a town hall meeting. Who does that? What kind of country is going to do something like that to put somebody in that type of position to speak to Americans, or actually people all over the world, to continue to spew lies and continue to incite a division and so much more? This is happening. This is where we are. And y'all, believe it or not, there now starting to be issues from other countries. I don't know the number the number keeps rising every day, that other countries are warning their people not to come into the U.S. Why? Because of mass shootings. We're now under alert for other people. Like, don't go to America. And if you go, make sure you got some bodyguards to go along with you, because they killing people every day. It's like an everyday scenario. More than 202 mass shootings, and it's not even 202 days in the first quarter of 2023. Well, second quarter of 2023. Wow, we doing that. We doing that. Y'all, we doing that. That's what's happening right now. That's what's happening right now. Kim Edmondson says, turn off the camera and his mic so he will go away. Somebody, please stop giving this man a platform. I know we want to share with people, let people understand what's going on, and and we all have a voice, but come on, what are we really doing? Y'all, USA Today reports that according to polling averages by Real Clear Politics and 538, the former guy is nearly 30 points ahead of what they're considering the number 2 choice, which is the Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has yet to announce his candidacy. So why are y'all saying he's behind him? He's not even announced. The Republican lawmakers time and again have rejected opportunities to rid themselves of Donald Trump and all that comes with him. Had they voted to impeach him, he wouldn't be able to run for office. Had they turned on him en masse over his election denialism, they could have saved themselves, but they didn't. This is all coming out of the USA Today. In fact, at least 11 Republican senators and more than 50 Republican House members have already endorsed Donald Trump's 2024 primary campaign. Make this make sense, y'all. Make this make sense. Make this make sense. So, y'all, with that, I am grateful that Pastor Derek Holmes has agreed to join me today. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I asked him to join me on both the News in Motion platform as well as the Politics and Prose platforms to talk about protecting our mental health in this political landscape. Pastor Derek Holmes will give us 5 to 7 things we can implement when it comes to dealing with the political divide, having friends across the aisle, talking politics during the upcoming summer holidays. You know, we got Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, and then encouraging people to register to vote. And once they have registered, to participate in voting. Y'all, he's no stranger to us. We have a lot to talk about, and I thought it was only fitting to bring him on now because with everything that's going on, we need to get an understanding, and we need, again, in the words of Simone Biles, we need to protect our mental. I can share with you myself that with the media giving attention and giving the platform to someone who has been indicted, faced criminal charges, found liable for sexual abuse and defamation, and potential violations of the Espionage Act. Me alone, I sit here right now and it challenges my mental health. It's like, what do we do? It brings upon an urgency that I want people to understand voting. And then I have to be honest with y'all. At times, I get extremely frustrated when people don't want to listen or even read for themselves. Because, you know, right here on News in Motion, we encourage you, do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Don't just read an article and say this is the truth. Go and do your own research. There's times that I can have sleepless nights. Y'all know I took a break in April because it was so much news, this political divide and all the words that we're using, and we can't even agree on raising the debt ceiling. We want to cut programs. I'm concerned about those who are food insecure. I'm concerned about those who are lacking in their education. I'm concerned about those who are homeless. I'm concerned about women and their health. I'm concerned about mental health issues. I'm concerned about migration, and we're at the end of Title 42, and I'm concerned about people being shot on their property because people are dealing with hide and seek and having fun as seniors in high school, and now they're being killed on someone's property because they saw somebody hiding behind a tree. Y'all, that happened in Louisiana. I'll talk about that tomorrow. I'm concerned with people having access to AR-15s, going into school, shooting up everybody, mauling people down in the mall. I'm concerned. So it can mess up our mental health. So I'm not going to prolong this. I want Derek Holmes to come on in here because I want you to talk with us and let us know what we can do to protect our mental health. Good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning. Peace, peace, peace. Oh gosh, there's a lot to unpack. Goodness gracious, you laid that out the right way.
Listen.
Laid it out the right way.
Listen, when you're putting a script together like this, and I'm trying to set it all up so I can bring the guest in the right way, even going through what I just said, I felt a certain way the past 2 days writing this up. It's like, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you're a pastor. You studied counseling. You're working on other degrees, and you are a pastor to many people. You're doing organizing movements and so forth. You see it all. I'm hoping you can help us today. I know you can help us today.
Well, I received that, and peace to everybody here that's watching, that's online. It's just good to see folk. At this point, I've gotten familiar with names, and it's just good to see people. Now it feels like the cookout to me. So I appreciate that, and we're actually going to talk about that in a little bit. I appreciate the way that you framed it, and I think it's important to highlight that the political climate is crazy right now, right? And our position as persons of color, as American Africans, always has to be one where we lead with some skepticism. Partisan politics has never historically worked out for us. We're always doing what's in the best interest of our people. And I think that that's healthy. I pray that we readopt that in 2023. But what that creates also is that we have these uneasy kind of interactions with folk. We kind of want to have the benefit of being able to lean on a side and say that this works. But what happens when there's overlap? What happens when I think that CNN is okay and Fox is bad, and then all of a sudden CNN has somebody with a whole show to espouse their platform. Then wait, should I not watch them? But I do feel like I need to be aware, and I do feel like I need to stay connected. What exactly do I do? How do I keep up? And I'm
Yeah.
not making an excuse, but again, I just think you framed it right. What happens when there's so much to keep track of, so much that I have to be aware of, so much that I have to
Yeah.
be paying attention to activity and inactivity, because that's a part of political process too, right? What
Right.
happens when all of that is going on as a human being? And by the way, we are completely human.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
human being, that can cause paralysis, right? I'll just stop, right? Because I'm so anxious, I'm so worked up. And so I think you framed it right. And I think it's just
Yeah.
important to hold space for that emotional, that socio-emotional reality because of the climate we're in.
And that's why I took off the entire month of April. I couldn't do it. I was like,
Yeah,
a week is not going to help me. I
yeah,
need to shut this down. I'm going to point out, Mike Nicholson, that I'm giving you the entire screen because I want you to really share with us. And y'all, if you missed this today, it's also the platforms are both News in Motion and Politics and Prose. So you'll catch it again on Friday. But Mike Nicholson says, and I'm gonna use his exact wording. He says, it advanced on me. He said, I ain't, he used the word ain't, never heard of a Black person being held liable, only guilty. Even that, even that. Then you have Shirley Nicholson saying, I too have all the same concerns. We just have a lot. So we want you to help us because we don't want to get to the place where we're saying, just forget it. We're just not going to vote.
yeah.
We can't get there. We have to stay the course. So I'm turning it over to you. Teach us, help us protect our mental health during this political landscape.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and it's always a pleasure to be able to share with you all on this platform that I think is premier in terms of news and information and passion for our people. Gail outlined it right, that we're in such a moment where the political climate is so tense. And I think that it's important to highlight that if we're completely human, that we can have responses to what's going on around us that we should be aware of and have enough sense to address. Again, I talked a moment ago about the paralysis that can happen. I can just feel like stopping, right? I I can feel like not doing what I need to be doing. That's responsibility avoidance, which is a sign of depression. I can catch myself vibrating at a lower frequency. And because of our function in the nation state where we're always in survival mode, where we feel like we have to be on a swivel and always looking at the next thing, we can adopt behaviors that are trauma responses, that are deeply connected to trauma and just trying to survive and be well. I want to offer just some things that we should be thinking about around that, because we don't have the luxury of being inactive. And I hate to start it that way, but that's just the truth. We don't have the luxury of being inactive. We don't have the luxury of being unaware. We don't have the luxury of not voting, of not raising consciousness, of not organizing community. We just don't have the luxury of, we are in a crucial wedge, and these next 2 years are going to determine the next 20 for our people. That is the truth. We have to make sure that we're doing our part. But if that's the case, so if the societal context is such to where it can lend to trauma and depression and emotional, mental unwellness, but we have the responsibility to be active and we don't have the luxury of being inactive, then that means that we have to rightly be navigating our emotional and mental well-being, right? We have to make sure that we are navigating that rightly. And I want to give you some things to think about. I experience that same type of trauma, that same type of frustration in my work as an organizer, in my work as a pastor, and absolutely as being an unapologetic American African every single day. Let me give you some things to think about, and I pray they make some sense to you. The first thing that we have to do is we have to learn to take time to meditate, right? And in my tradition, as a Christian, we talk about having prayer closets. Mine is actually behind me. We talk about having spaces where we just pray. I'm not necessarily talking about it in that way as much as I'm talking about meditation. We can develop anxiety thinking about what's yet to come and thinking about the things that have happened before us, right? So I think about all the things that have happened in the past, and whether I've addressed it or not, I have trauma as a result of those things. And I'm aware of the things that are coming. And so now I have anxiety because I know what's coming next. And I bring that to my prayer space, so I never really slow down. That's actually where anxiety comes up, when it happens when I'm too far back in the past or I'm too far ahead in the future. And what does it mean to just make and take time just to be still, just to be where you are right now, just to be present in the place where your feet rest? In the Bible, in the 119th Psalm, it talks about just having time just to meditate on God, right? Just to spend time just in meditation and just being present where you are. I don't know if we make enough time for that. The reality of the social media climate is such to where something's always happening, something's always going. Many of us, maybe even the person that's logged on now, right, has moments where they wake up and the first thing they do is they grab their phone just to see what's going on and what they missed in the hopefully 8 hours of sleep in between the last time they were logged in. And maybe there's an idea around just taking time to be still, just to be present, not so far back in the past and not consumed with a future that hasn't happened yet, but just being right where you are, just being still and being present, making time to meditate. It's different than prayer, but just time to be still and to assess where you are. How am I feeling? How am I thinking? Do I sound like my highest self, right? Just taking time to be grounded and present with the reality of where you exist and being grateful for the fact that the Creator let you exist there. This is funny because that leads me to the second thing that I want to offer. And the second one is, you have to limit the amount of time you have on social media. Listen, I know the irony that we are engaging this on a social media platform, but this is healthy social media. This is social media that's constructive, right? You have to make sure that you're taking time where you actually turn the phone off, turn the device off, and check out. We weren't created to sit and be in that constant loop of communication. You do know that the overwhelming majority of things that are on social media aren't even true. You know, people, these keyboard killers get on here and talk crazy, but that's not really who they are. You know, I know that you hit a heart, hit a like, and you might even call someone a friend, right? But the truth is they're not really your friends, right? It's just a matter of being connected. And that overstimuli does harm to us. It does damage to us. In fact, what it does is it limits our ability to think for ourselves, because we have something else that is thinking for us and informing the way in which we engage the world. And there has to be a healthy reset. Here you go. The capitalist world understands this. Whether you have an Apple or Android, if you really care about your device, they'll tell you that you have to turn your device off at least once a day. Right? That you have to turn it off just so it can reset, just so it can recharge. We have to limit the amount of time that we're on social media, that overstimuli, that connection at that level. We weren't created to navigate in that way. Now, in that, we also have to, here's the third one, we have to manage our own stimuli as well. So if I'm turning off social media, if I'm taking healthy social media breaks as I need them, I have the ability, the agency, the freedom to manage my own stimuli. Right? I can create a playlist that feels good to me. I would love to tell you that as a pastor, I woke up this morning and I was listening to Mahalia Jackson, because I wake up every morning and listen to gospel. I actually don't. In fact, the majority of the music I listen to isn't necessarily gospel. And it's not because I don't love the church and I don't love Jesus. If I had more time, I'd tell you that gospel music isn't my God. Right? But what I actually do is spend time with a playlist that I created. Just makes me feel good in the morning. It doesn't have a lot of words. It's classical music and it's jazz music, and it feels good and it gets me going. And I have a whole playlist. So by the time that I get moving, I've curated an experience for myself that pours into me. I want to make sure that I'm curating and being attentive to what stimuli. What do I allow into my ear gate? What do I allow into my eye gate? What is it that I'm giving myself that ends up being the counterweight to the things that are negative? Listen, there's enough foolishness when I walk out of the door. What am I doing in terms of my own mental health, in terms of my own emotional wellness. And one of those is I have to be able to create and manage my own stimuli, right? Stimuli. What am I listening to? Who am I listening to? Right? I know you all are listening to Gail. This is a good place to listen, right? But who are you listening to? What are the sermons that you're checking into? When's the last time that you intentionally listened to something that made you think, that caused you to be inspired? And maybe the reason why there's a gap, if there is because you're not managing your stimuli appropriately. We should be thinking about what it is that we allow to pour into us, because when the inputs are right, then the outputs will be right as well. One of the other ways that we manage our own health and wellness, and even our emotional, socio-emotional wellness around this, is we have to make time to connect to creation. We as a people are so connected to so many different things. And at our core, as we are creations of the divine, we have to be able to connect to creation. Think about it like this. If you happen to be logged on here and you're a PhD graduate of Sunday school, you remember in Genesis where the creator is in creation mode. The first thing we learn about God is that God creates, right? It's that God creates. I want to suggest that we are actually our closest to the image of the divine when we are creating and when we're close to creation. Every now and then, make some time to go for a walk. This is the real damage of what happened through the COVID-19 pandemic, in that it secluded us, and particularly us as persons of color, as members of that diasporic village, that we in fact are a village people. We are connected to each other, and that segregation hindered us in many ways. I'll even speak for myself as a professing and practicing introvert. That year and a half was the most beautiful time for me, because I didn't have to deal with folk. I could just write and think and read, and it was absolutely okay. But here's where it ended up hindering me in some real ways. It did, because I wasn't spending time with people. And I then had to relearn what it meant to spend time outside of the house. You have to make time to connect with creation. Go for a walk in a park. Go and get some air. Open your window. Let the rejuvenating power of the sun touch our skin as it's been kissed by God. We have to make time to connect with creation, because when we connect with creation, we are connecting with God, and it causes us to vibrate at a higher frequency, which promotes our wellness. We have to make sure that we're connecting to creation. I want to make sure I didn't lose you. We have to make sure that we're taking time to meditate. Take time just to be still, not too far in the past and not so worried about the future. Just be present right now and grateful for the space that the Creator allows us to hold. We have to make sure that we're making time to limit our time on social media. Most of the stuff on here ain't real anyway. So just take time to turn it off. It will be there when you get back, and you don't need to be connected to it in that way. We have to make sure that we're managing our own stimuli, being aware of the things that we pour into ourselves. Create a playlist of your favorite music. Go ahead and have a catalog of favorite sermons or inspirational messages that make you feel good. Curate and manage the stimuli that you allow into your eye and ear gate. And also make time to commune with creation. Make time to go outside, go for a walk, hug a tree, whatever it is that you want to do to be connected to creation, because when we connect to creation, we are connecting to the God of creation. One of the other ways that we do that is we have to learn how to connect in community. It is not the case that we are supposed to be separated from each other. This is the beauty of what it means to be human, in that we're supposed to be connected. We're supposed to be in community with each other. Listen, I'm going to say something controversial. I love going to church. I know that almost sounds cliche because I'm a pastor and I at least have a pulpit to preach from every week. But the truth is that I not only love going to church because I serve, I love going to church because I love being around people. Listen, I love the energy of getting a hug from somebody. The hug I get on Sunday might be the only hug that I get all week, right? I want to make sure that I am connecting in community. Right here in Columbus, Ohio, on May the 20th, there's going to be a service centered around social justice. The reason I am going to this service, I'm not even preaching. The reason I'm going to this service is because I want to be in community. I want to connect with other folk, like-minded and not like-minded, so we can connect for one reason and one reason only, and that's to be in collaboration and community and empowerment with each other. I miss out on those things when I choose not to connect in community. What oppression does is makes you feel like you're by yourself. What oppression does, what these structures that we exist under, they make us think that we're by ourselves. We're actually not. And the way that we offer the counterweight, the way that we operate in liberation from a socio-emotional perspective, is to make a commitment to connect with community. Get together, hang out, go to a wine tasting or a wine drinking. It's not my job to judge you, but whatever it is that you do, right? Spend time with other people, connect with other people, and that helps our mental health and our mental wellness. While we're talking about wellness, one of the other ways that we navigate this season is the idea of having well-being boundaries. Well-being boundaries. We have to have healthy boundaries that are connected to our well-being. Listen, every time that someone's having a deep, heavy political conversation, you need to have a healthy boundary that says, maybe I'm not in the place for that right now. No, I'm not in the place to discuss the left and the right and how right the left is and how left the right is and who's across the aisle. I'm just not in the place for that today. Sorry, I just feel like being a person. I'm sorry, I don't feel like engaging in political commentary. I'm not in the space today to talk about the plight of our people. I'm not in the space today to talk about how I'm trying to help folk who don't want to help themselves. I'm just not in the place for it. And I reserve the right to build up my healthy boundary in the name of my well-being. I get to be okay. And if I can't operate as my best self in it, then I don't need to be involved with it. I know I'm not preaching, but that felt like preaching this morning. If I can't be my best self while I'm in it, then I don't want to be in it. I want to take the time. I reserve the right. I want to operate and be empowered in creating the boundary, so that way I can be okay. So that way when I get back, because be clear, the problems will be there when you get back. That conversation will still be happening. We are having conversations in 2023 that were had literally centuries ago. So listen, we haven't made it to the mountaintop yet. So it is perfectly fine and acceptable and human and right and healthy for you to have some well-intentioned boundaries around your well-being. Now, that's not just in terms of interpersonal. That boundary is in terms of, again, what you put into your system, right? I have to have a boundary around food. I have to close my kitchen at a certain time. That's a boundary. I have to make a commitment to no longer be a meatitarian and actually incorporate vegetables and fruit into my diet. That's a healthy boundary. I have to know when to answer the phone and when to put the do not disturb on my phone. That's a healthy boundary. The way that we navigate our socio-emotional wellness in this climate is to make sure that we have well-being boundaries. The last one, and I promise I'll leave you alone, it's my favorite of them. I have adopted this as a spiritual discipline. We have to embrace the spirituality of rest. We have to engage the spirituality of rest. It is a holdover from our experience as those who were traveled across the Atlantic to this country, that our value is connected to what we do. That the greater we perform, the more that we perform, then that's our value. That's how we were taught to make it up the ladder. That's how we term success. That's how we term our own worth in many ways. If we're honest with the person who was in our mirror this morning, that we often quantify and qualify our value based on what it is that we do, our outputs. And I want to share with you that we are perfectly, wonderfully, irrevocably human, which means that we have a right to rest. And I notice what I said, not just rest, the spirituality of rest. Now, there might be someone on here who has been so busy and so stressed and so worried through everything that's going on right now that you may have missed Bible study. Let me give you a bit of Bible study so that way you can be caught up. Now, Watch it. In the book of Matthew, in Matthew's gospel, in the 14th chapter, in that 13th verse, there is something that's fascinating that happens. Jesus has been doing what Jesus does. He's been going and preaching and teaching and healing and doing all of the Jesus work. And in that 13th verse, there is something so fascinating there. Your Bible should say, if you got a good Bible, that Jesus stole away from the crowd and the disciples and got into the boat. Now, it doesn't seem like it's much, but if you caught that, you would shout and knock over your device right now that Jesus has been doing all of the work. And let's go deeper. And he just finds out that John the Baptist has been beheaded by King Herod. John the Baptist was preaching not what was convenient, but what was right. He said that, listen, King Herod's function isn't right. John the Baptist had enough nerve as a preacher to say that the person who was in charge of the country had mistreated this woman and is operating in a relationship that isn't right with this woman. And John had the courage to say it. I'm just talking about the Bible here, that John the Baptist had enough courage to say that the person who was in leadership over the nation was operating in a way that was wrong with another. Oh, you missed it. John the Baptist had enough sense to say that King Herod, who was leading the nation, was operating in a wrong way with a woman. He had enough courage to say it. And as a result, King Herod had John the Baptist's head cut off. And your Bible says in Matthew, in the 14th chapter and the 13th verse, that with Jesus and all of this preaching, all of this teaching and all of this work, and then he finds out about the trauma, he finds out about the thing that happened. And what does he do? He goes into the boat. Notice, beloved, he does not get on the boat with anybody else. The disciples are not on the boat with him. The people are not on the boat with him. There is no one else on the boat with him. If you read a little further, he's on the boat and he goes to sleep. Listen, we learn from the text, Jesus's model is that we get to rest. We get to stop. We get to be still. We get to take a moment and rest and just deal with all of the emotions that come with what we deal with. It is not the case that we just go from thing to thing. That is not of God. Not even if you feel like you need it. Sometimes you just rest because rest is just a spiritual discipline. Let me say it the way I need to. Sit down somewhere. Just stop and rest. And just rest and recharge. And let the Creator pour back into you so that way you can go back and do the work that's needed toward the liberation of our people. I pray that that makes some sense on today. I know that the climate is heavy and we have a lot going on. And listen, we have a lot of work to do. But beloved, might we know that the goal is not for us to get there broken, but for us to get there as our best selves, beautiful and bright and beaming and healthy and well. I pray that this made some sense to you. Go out and change the world in the best way you can, but make time to take care of yourself on the way. And definitely make sure that you're making some time to just rest. It's a blessing to always see you. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.